Hi there. This is a brief tutorial on how to fill out the budget proposal and reporting template for the Knowledge Management Fund application. The first thing you'll need to do is download the Excel file, so you can go to our Knowledge Management Fund homepage and scroll all the way down to the bottom right-hand corner where you'll see the documents that you can download and click the budget proposal and reporting template. So filling this out is pretty straightforward, but if it's your first time filling out a budget template, you might find some of this helpful. So there's 3 sheets in total. The first one is the budget proposal guidelines, which I'll basically be covering in this video. The second sheet is the budget proposal. This is your most important sheet because it has all of the required fields. And then the third sheet is the budget narrative, which is optional, but it's a space for you to explain the rationale behind your budget proposal. The most important thing to know before you start filling out the budget proposal is that some of the cells are intentionally locked so that an applicant can't edit them. The reason being is that there's automated formulas built into this budget proposal template that does some of the number crunching for you. So anything that you see in light gray or dark gray, so for instance, this column KMF funding or this row subtotal, these are all automated formulas, so you should not try to edit those. So what you do want to be filling out is everything that's been illustrated with blue font here. And we have some examples already filled in here that you should of course delete as you start filling in the actual details. So let's put in a test project title at the top, a test organization name, and the date is April 8th, 2021. Alright, so these we've already filled out. Let's do the translator and interpreter cost together. So we'll say that's 40 euros per hour as an example. This isn't actually an indication of how much it might cost. And let's say that this interpreter has to work in 2 sessions. So you'll see that 80 euros has automatically been calculated in this KMF funding column, and that's under professional fees. As you start doing that for every section, the subtotal, the formulas will automatically add that into your subtotal of KMF funding at the bottom here. In the budget proposal guidelines, you'll see a section called Applicant Contribution or Co-funding. This section explains that applicants have to commit to making a resource contribution of their own in the proposal, and it has to amount to at least 20% of the total KMF funding that's requested. So the applicant contribution can refer to things like hotel fees, venue rentals, but the applicant contribution can also be professional fees or staff fees. So you'll see here, for instance, speaker fees were included as the applicant contribution. At the end of your proposal, it just has to amount to a minimum of 20% of the KMF funding total. And that's also a calculation that has an automated formula that will do that for you. At the very bottom of the budget proposal, you'll see a section called Miscellaneous. You can have some miscellaneous costs, but they cannot exceed 5% of the total KMF funding. So for instance, the focus group discussion refreshments couldn't fit into any of these other categories here. So it's only fit to put that under miscellaneous, but they're very clearly quantified and itemized. Anything that's vague will be considered overhead, and that could make your application ineligible. So please make sure that anything in the miscellaneous section does not exceed 5% and is very clearly itemized and quantified. When you are finished filling out all of the sections of the budget proposal, the very last step is the Eligibility Self-Checklist here at the bottom. You want to make sure that everything's green before you submit your proposal. So, if you indeed have no overheads applied, you can check no overheads applied, that turns green. All of your staff costs are indeed justified, you can make that green. And if all of your costs are very clearly itemized and attributed to activities, you can make that green. And if all points in the Eligibility Self-Checklist are filled out in green and truly are reflected in the budget proposal, then the proposal is eligible. The main things to be sure of are that you're not changing anything in the shaded or patterned cells and that you are filling out everything in blue. And if there's anything you'd like to expand upon, remember that you can go to the third sheet of the budget narrative and explain your rationale behind the budget proposal a little bit further. Last but not least, just a reminder that the KMF funding cannot exceed the total amount of 20,000 euros, and that's inclusive of VAT. And a reminder that the applicant contribution should be a minimum of 20% of the total KMF funds requested. I hope that you found this budget proposal and reporting template tutorial helpful, and the Secretariat looks forward to reviewing your applications.